Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you didn't find that challenge too hard and was able to set up the audio to play all by yourself. If not, then not to worry. Let's take a look at how it could have been done and see if you met all of the criteria points. So let's start in FMOD. Now before we begin, you may notice that my project looks a little bit different to how yours might. That's simply because I'm recording this video after all of the other lessons you'll be going through in this course. So any extra folders or events that you see and don't recognize are simply there for later lessons that you'll soon be looking at. So let's start by making our way to the sound effects folder and then the environment folder. Inside, we're going to create ourselves a 3D event and we're going to call it running water. We're then going to open up the audio bin and go to the environment folder and then the water folder to find the audio we'll be using. Now you can select any one of these files, so let's drag one into our event to create a single instrument. We'll then right click on the dark area above it and select add loop region and then stretch it out so it covers our single instrument. So now if we play our event, it will loop seamlessly and play continuously. Now in order for the sound to fit the space we'll be placing it in, we'll need to make some tweaks to the min and max distance settings on the 3D spatializer effect on the event's master track. Now, if you've already implemented your event, it's a good idea to test out how it sounds in-game and then come back here to make some adjustments to these settings. But I'm going to be setting mine to 25 and 45, so we'll be able to hear it in-game later. Now you don't have to do this, and this wasn't part of our criteria points, but to add a little bit more variety to this sound and any future loop sounds you implement into your games, you can select the instrument and go down to where it says Start Offset and decide how far into your audio you'd like your sound to start when the event cursor triggers it to play. So for example, I'm going to set mine to play when it's about halfway through the instrument. What you can then do is right click on it, select add modulation, select random, and then decide by how much you'd like to randomize the start offset. Now for this to work, we need to make sure the instrument will play asynchronously from the event cursor so that it can start randomly. Now if we start our event a few times, you can see the cursor for the instrument starts at different positions each time we play the event. Finally, because our instrument now has its own playback marker, we need to tell it to loop as well. So let's press the loop instrument button on the instrument and then make sure it's set to loop infinitely. And now, not only will our water sound loop forever, it will also start from a random place every time. Now all that's left to do is right click our event and assign it to a bank. Now again, ignore the fact that I now have multiple banks set up. This was done in a later lesson which you will come across in Module 4. So I'm just going to select Master Bank. Once you've done that, don't forget to build your banks by pressing F7 and then saving your project. Great, so now it's time to jump into Unity. First thing we'll need is an empty game object which we will position under the bridge and play our audio from. So let's go to the Hierarchy tab, let's press Create and select Create Empty. We can then quickly give this object a name from the Inspector tab, so I'm going to call mine Running Water. Now we simply need to find our object in the game world and we need to drag it so that it's placed underneath the bridge. So we can simply use the directional arrows on the object to move it until it's placed where we want it to. Okay, so whilst it's not completely submerged in the water, I'm happy with keeping my game object where it is like that, just underneath the arch of the bridge. Next, we're going to make our way to the FMOD folder we created inside the Project tab by selecting the Assets folder, 3D Game Kit, Scripts, and then FMOD. Then we're going to create a new C# script. So let's select Create, C# script. And then we're going to call this F_running water. Once the script has finished compiling, let's select our running water game object and then drag our new script onto it in the Inspector tab. Finally, let's right click it and select Edit Script. Okay, so the first thing we need in our script is an event instance variable. So let's make some space inside of the class and we'll write fmod.studio.event instance and then give it a name such as RW, short for running water, and then end it with a semicolon. Then inside our start function, let's set an instance to our variable by writing its name followed by equals fmod unity dot runtime manager dot create instance. Then inside two brackets, we're going to write either the event path or the GUID for our event. Now, if you place your event in the same folders that I did in FMOD, your event path will be event : sound effects / environment / running water. And as always, making sure that your event path is spelled correctly and any capital letters and spaces are in the right places. Next, we want to set this event to play in 3 dimensions. And to do this, you can either use the set 3D attributes command or the attach instance to game object command. Both will allow our audio to be heard in 3D. Now, if we quickly pop back into Unity again and take a look at our running water game object, we'll notice that because it was an empty game object, there's no rigid body component attached to it. This means that it won't be moving around in our scene. So because of this, I'm going to use set 3D attributes, but I'm actually going to use it in the start function, calling it only once at the beginning of this scene. Now this is because since the object won't move and the sound of the water won't be expected to move from the player, we don't need to update the position of the audio every frame by using the update function. So this saves a little bit of processing power for whatever system is running our game. So inside our start function, let's write the name of our event instance variable, followed by dot set 3D attributes, and with 2 brackets and a semicolon. Then inside the 2 brackets, we're going to write fmod unity dot runtime utils dot 2 3D attributes. And then inside a second pair of brackets, we can add variables or data to tell our script where to play our audio from. Now again, seeing as our object won't be moving, we can keep things simple by simply giving our command the data from our transform component attached to this game object. So let's simply write transform. Now remember, by writing transform with a lowercase t, we are referring to the component that contains the data we want, such as the position of our game object, that shares a game object with the script we're writing in. So it's a nice easy way to find this specific transform component. After that, we simply need to tell our event to start playing by writing rw.start with 2 brackets and a semicolon. And then we want to tell our event to stop when the scene has finished and the empty game object we created has been destroyed. So to do this, we'll then add the onDestroy function, and then inside we will write rw.stop with 2 brackets, and then attach the stop mode immediate. Seeing as we don't need our event to fade in or out over time, and when the scene ends, our player won't be anywhere near it to hear it fade out, so we might as well tell it to stop immediately. And as always, don't forget to end this line with a semicolon. Finally, the last thing we need to do is complete the bonus criteria point and release our instance. Now to do this, all we need to do is write inside of our start function, underneath where we told our event to start playing, rw.release. So now, the release command will release our event instance if it's not currently playing. Now because we wrote the release command after the start command, in other words, we're telling our event to release whilst it's playing, the instance won't be released straight away, and instead, we'll wait until the event has first been told to stop. And because we told our event to stop in the onDestroy function, the instance won't be released until our scene ends when the player exits the level. And with that, we can now save our script and test out our sound. So as always, once back in Unity, let's first wait for our script to finish compiling. And then once it has, we can play our scene. Okay, so now we're in our scene. Let's make our way over to the bridge and see if we can hear that water. There we go, perfect. So how well did you do? Did you manage to hit all of the criteria points? If not, then no problem. There'll be more challenges for you to earn points on at the end of each module. Hopefully now you've gotten a little bit more of a feel for implementing basic sounds into a Unity game using FMOD or by yourself. If not, then feel free to go over the lessons in the module again or try to test one more time, maybe even seeing if you can implement some other ambient sounds, and I'll see you when you're ready in Module 2.